you probably know I'm on video all the time. I'm always doing my podcast or shooting things for my video. Hi, I was just saying I'm feeling this amazing excitement and energy for being here with you. I'm so excited to be doing my very first live webinar. So thank you, whoever is here watching right now, for being here. And of course, this is going to be up as a replay. So if you're watching it as a replay, welcome. I'm happy you're here as well. This is going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to keep it to an hour. I'm going to keep it tight and bright, as they say in the biz. And I'm going to be sharing some of the tips and the strategies and the tools and the resources and the things that have really worked for me to be able to live a life of freedom around food and sugar and my body image and my weight for almost 17 years. And the thing is, it's only been 17 years and I'm 46 years old. So if you do the math, you will know that I was not always in this type of a lifestyle. It's definitely taken me a lot of curating and a lot of cultivating and a lot of time and energy and attention and focus to lead me into the lifestyle that I feel so blessed to live now. And I want to just shout it from the rooftops. It's taken me a lot of years. If you've been following me at all for a while, you'll know it's taken me a long time to be able to come out and share my story openly. I spoke at an event last night and I've had several people reach out to me today to say, wow, thank you so much for sharing that. You really were able to be so authentic and share something so personal about yourself. And I had to comment back, this is not, this hasn't been 20, 30 years of me doing this. This is the last few years that I've really felt more and more comfortable sharing my story and the truth about who I am and why I feel so blessed to be able to do the work that I do. So let me share a little bit with you about what is going on, like this problem that we're all seeing in the world with diets and comparing ourselves. We're all going on social media. We're looking at other people. We're thinking that we aren't measuring up. We're feeling jealous. We're feeling like we're really just comparing ourselves to these other people. And we're wondering if they are living this wonderful, healthy life, why can't we do it too? What's wrong with us? And a lot of us are experiencing that pain. And I just really want to help you to know that that can end now. You never, ever, ever have to go on another diet if dieting has been something that's been a habit for you over the years, if it's a mentality that you've just always adopted that if you want to be thin and if you want to be lean and if you want to feel comfortable in your own skin, then that equals restricting, dieting, starving, deprivation, and all of that to get you to that goal that we think is that goal off somewhere in the future. But what I found and what I think the research shows never works that way. It never, ever works that way. The diet industry is a $50 billion industry because they're designed to fail, because they are designed to keep us coming back over and over and over again. And we start to believe that it's our fault. We start to believe there's something wrong with us, that we just can't seem to put the puzzle pieces together to create a lifestyle that feels natural and normal, when of course not. We are completely cutting out entire food groups. We are going crazy with products and packages and things that we're buying from these companies, these supplements and all of this stuff. And we don't even know what's working for us. And sometimes we see something work for somebody else, so we assume that it will work for us. And then we try it and it doesn't work for us. And then it kind of compounds the issue. We think, again, there's something wrong with us. We are moral failures. There's, what's wrong with us? Why am I not good enough? What am I doing wrong? Why am I such a failure? And all of that real self-sabotage that can come into play. And so I am just here in my life and in my work, hoping to help people to get away from all of that noise and chaos and live in a life that feels really authentic and that really feels right for each and every person. So, excuse me, my approach is never prescriptive. I am never somebody saying, this is what you should eat, this is how you should eat, this is what should be done. I'm very much somebody who helps people along to develop what's right for them. So who am I anyway? And why am I sitting here in front of you on your computer doing this work? Well, of course, you sort of know who I am, but 17 years ago was when my life really, really changed. Not quite 17 years ago. In July, it'll be 17 years. And when I was 29 years old, I was in my life, and on the outside, it looked pretty normal. It looked pretty good. I had a great job. I was being groomed to become partner of the firm I was working with. I loved my colleagues and my boss. I had a nice car and I traveled for my work. I oversaw 7 territories and I had a great circle of friends. I had, again, I had my own place. I, again, looked like I had a normal life from the outside looking in. But if you knew the truth about what was going on behind closed doors, it was anything but normal. I was a daily drinker, a nightly drinker. I was what's dubbed a high functioning alcoholic. I was somebody who relied on that wine or whatever it ended up being at the end of the day. I was that person waiting for 5 o'clock to roll around so that I could just get to the liquor store or get to the local pub where I was hanging out with friends or over to a friend's house to drink or home alone to drink. But no matter what, almost any given day of the week, I was drinking alcohol to excess. And I would stop when I passed out pretty much. And the next morning would just be a sort of slamming of the alarm clock at 6 a.m, drag myself to the shower and try to get on with my day looking like a normal human being that wasn't relying on a toxic substance to get me through the day. But that's who I was. And one night when I was having dinner with a friend, and I say dinner, but it was really mostly just wine. We had a few appetizers and a couple of bottles of wine. I was sharing with her that, I had ended a relationship with her next door neighbor. It's how we ended up even becoming friendly. Excuse me. And I told her that I just didn't feel like the relationship had enough there to make it worthwhile continuing. I'd been dating this guy for a few months and she was disappointed because we had become friendly and she was like, "Oh, bummer, you're not going to be coming around to the house anymore. That's too bad." And so we were talking and we were talking and we were drinking and we were drinking and we were smoking. And as the night wore on a little bit more, I became a little bit melancholy. And I said to her, "Oh, maybe I'm making a big mistake. Maybe he is the perfect guy for me. And I've just been, I've been overzealous with ending this thing. Maybe I need to give it a bit more time." And the truth be told, the reason why I was ending that relationship in the first place is because he had started to question my drinking. He had started to notice how much I drank and he'd started acting pretty judgmental around it. Like, "Oh my gosh, Sarah, are you going to drink like this every night?" And I was like, "Everyone drinks like this every night. Like, back off." And one of the first things that I would do in any relationship was as soon as the guy started questioning my drinking, he was out of there. It was like, I didn't have time for that. I didn't want to talk about that. I was not interested in analyzing my drinking behavior. I drank exactly the way that I felt that I needed to drink. And so when she said to me, it's too bad that you're not going to be coming around. I'm sorry, you guys aren't going to make this thing work. I get melancholy. I make the decision instead of walking home. I lived on the same street as the restaurant we were dining at. Instead of spending 10 minutes to walk home drunk, I made the choice to get into my car and I drove home, following her home. And not far out of the restaurant, she stopped. I hit her. The crash was heard by the police that were basically across the street. The cop shop was literally across from the restaurant. They heard it. And they came over within moments. It felt like it was all just this whirlwind of an event. And I sat in the back of the police cruiser, handcuffed, in shame, and really knowing deep in my bones that I was an alcoholic. I no longer use that term, but in that moment, I knew it to be true. I had known it for a long time, but I knew in that moment there was no more hiding. There was no way I could hide this big of a mistake. I knew that my life in that moment had completely changed. I knew I'd had to sell my car. There was no way I was going to be driving. I knew I was going to be charged with a DUI, which I was. And so I knew I'd lose my license and I knew that my whole life was going to change. And so the next day after I got out of jail, I spent the night in jail It's definitely not a place I want anybody that's watching to ever have to spend time. And I went back to the boyfriend's house. We decided we would make things work, and he decided to support me. And he was truly the most fundamentally important one of the most important people in my life that I've ever encountered. And I'm grateful to this day, doesn't even begin to describe the depth of gratitude that I have for that man. He helped me through the darkest time of my life. He let me move in with him because I made the decision to tell my boss that I was going to go back to business school. I was going to fulfill my dream of going back to business school because I lied. I didn't want to tell my boss the truth that I'd gotten a DUI and therefore had to quit my job. I drove for my work. So I was so filled with shame that was the story I told my boss. And then the story that I told my friends was also that, I really wanted to go back to business school and this was something cool that I was doing. And they were like, okay, but so why'd you quit drinking? And the reason for the quitting drinking was I told them, I'm really going to get into health and fitness. I'm just all of a sudden waking up today and deciding that I want a whole new life. I'm going to go back to school and I'm going to start working out and I'm going to start eating better. And I want to be this healthy, fit person that I've never really been. And this is of interest to me. And this is what I'm doing. And I thought that was weird. And some of them certainly fell by the wayside. A lot of those connections were simply people I drank with. But that was what I held up. And I kept up that lie for many years. I kept up the lie that I just chose not to drink, not because it had anything to do with addiction and not because it had anything to do with having to quit drinking because of a DUI rock bottom situation, just because I chose to do that. But the thing is, I would sit on the couch at night sober, looking for my sugar fix, not realizing it at the time, but looking for that sugar, looking for that thing that would help me to numb out, that would soften the edges a little bit. And I was looking for the wine and knowing I couldn't have the wine. And so I started reaching for sugar. Every single night I would have it. Every single night I would try to tell myself, okay, tonight I'm not going to have the Ben and Jerry's. It would be tubs of Ben and Jerry's, like an entire tub with the spoon, no bowl required. It was me and my Ben and Jerry's, and don't you dare try to get between me. And I felt justified. I felt like, of course I'm going to do this thing. I am not allowed to do the thing that I really want to do. I have to do this other thing. And it's only fair that I'm going to be doing this. But there was this voice in the back of my head saying, yeah, but you're supposed to be this super healthy, fit person. That's the lie you're trying to keep up. What are you going to do about that? Then there was this other voice inside of me that said, Sarah, you've never really been a huge sweet person. I mean, I guess as a kid you liked sugar, but what's going on here? And so I started researching about cross addiction and about the sugar response in the body and the drug-like similarities between sugar and alcohol. And I was really starting to learn more about health and nutrition and fitness and wellness. I started working with a personal trainer and I started becoming somebody who I actually really enjoyed being with, which is really important considering we are the person that we spend the most time with. And yet I was still kind of holding up this guise. And that lasted up until just a few years ago when I started my blog in 2015. I kept up that lie that I was just this person in health and fitness, nothing to do with the alcohol. But that's really how it all started for me. And so it's almost been on July 31st, it'll be 17 years since the anniversary of my DUI, my rock bottom, my total transformation in my life. And what I've learned along the way has just been so incredible to me, what I have learned about sugar and dieting and food and body image and the craziness that we all kind of go through. And it's what I'm so passionate to teach today. So what I want to do now is kind of go back in time a little bit about, like the truth about sugar and what the deal with sugar even is. And so we're going to kind of talk about that, and then we'll go a little bit deeper with some tips and strategies that I'm going to share with you, my favorite ones. So first off, what's going on with sugar? Well, let's go back down memory lane a little bit. If you remember back in the 1960s, I was born in the 70s, 1972, but back in the 60s, there was something called Project 226. You can Google it. It was a study conducted by Harvard scientists. And what happened is the Harvard scientists were being asked to find out what the deal was with heart disease and type 2 diabetes and obesity and all of these Western diseases. It was like, what is at the root of all of this? But it was funded by the sugar industry. And the findings were that sugar was at the root of all of these new diseases that were coming up and these ailments and these issues. But the sugar industry has a very heavy hand and incredibly deep pockets. And they told the Harvard scientists, no, 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 you're not going to share that it's sugar that's at the root of all of this stuff, all of these diseases. Mm-mm. You're going to tell the public that it's saturated fat that's at the root of all of this disease. Just take a moment to soak that in. When I read that, when I learned this a couple of years ago, I was just gobsmacked is the right word. We were lied to as a society. We were told that we should no longer eat fat, that we should absolutely avoid it at all costs. And that's why we all saw, if you're any age like I am, no fat, low fat, zero fat, fat free. Everything was all around fat and counting fat grams. And it was everything that everyone talked about and cared about. No one talked about sugar at all. And the truth is that when you take the fat out of a product, it's almost unpalatable. And you've got to add something else in to make it palatable. What was added in? Sugar. So again, the heavy hand and the deep pockets of the sugar industry were at play. And so over time, we have developed higher and higher and higher tolerance for sugar, because not only is it in the things that we would not be surprised by, like cotton candy or candy floss or Jujubes, gummy bears, chocolate, candy, brownies, all of that kind of stuff. Of course, we know sugar is found in all of that. But not just that, they were starting to put it into ketchup and sauces and yogurt and all sorts of products that we wouldn't even necessarily associate with as sweet foods, as sugary foods. We were starting to find it everywhere. And so we have, as a society, we have developed a tolerance, just like any other drug, to sugar. It's been increased and increased and increased over time. In fact, only 200 years ago, we drank the amount of sugar in this can of ginger ale every 5 to 7 days. And now we drink the amount of sugar in this can of ginger ale every 5 to 7 hours. So you can understand the gravity of that and why there's been such an impact on our health, and not just our physical health. The studies show that antidepressant usage has gone up by 400% since the early 1990s. I can't help but know that it has a direct relationship. There is a direct relationship between what we eat and how we feel. All you need to do is start tracking for a while and you will notice, wow, what I'm eating has an impact on how I feel. It's absolutely incredible. And I just want so badly to help impart to people that if we did nothing else but pay attention to how much sugar we're taking in, we would be able to completely transform our relationship with our bodies, with our food, and with what's going on out in the world, and be able to manage things so much better if only we just raised our awareness a little bit. And that's all about the work that I do. That's everything that we do in any of the work that I do with any of the people that I have the privilege of working with, is raising our awareness. So taking this can of ginger ale, one of my favorite things to talk about is, what do we look for in a product? And I always just share with people, the only thing I really care about are the ingredients of a product. So for example, in this product, this is a ginger ale, here are the first 3 ingredients. Carbonated water, which is pretty obvious. The second ingredient is sugar. The third ingredient is glucose-fructose. So the second ingredient is sugar, and the third ingredient is a code word for high fructose corn syrup. So there are 56 There are now more than 56 hidden names for sugar. And I wrote a blog post that I'd love for you to check out. I'll post the link in the comments so that you can check that out and really educate yourself on all the crazy different names that they're hiding behind that are sugar. And so glucose-fructose is one of those. And that is a code word for high fructose corn syrup, which is definitely one of the sugars that we want to stay away from. Why? Because every cell in the human body can metabolize glucose. In fact, it's our brain's preferred source of energy, but there's only one organ in the entire body that can metabolize fructose, and that's the liver. And that's why we're seeing so many cases of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease in children. We're seeing the belly fat around our organs. We're seeing type 2 diabetes in children as young as 10 years old. It is crazy. If you took one thing out of your diet, this would be the one that I would recommend for people to totally ditch, if you possibly can, any kind of pop soda. Just get rid of it. It is honestly just, there's nothing redeeming about it at all. And I don't count calories, but if you're worried about calories, I mean, 120 calories in this, like there's nothing in it. So it's just pure sugar and it's pure fructose going straight to the liver. So definitely not healthy at all. So the other thing that I really want you to pay attention to, so of course the ingredients label, and if you are seeing sugar in one of the first 3 ingredients, you just have to make a decision. You just have to say to yourself, okay, I'm having sugar then. And be cool with it and go for it and feel no guilt about it. But if you really want to kind of raise your awareness and make some changes, take a look at those packages and products that you have in your home or on the grocery store shelves and just decide, okay, do I really want that in my body? Is that something that I want to put into me? You're going to read a lot of chemical names and a lot of crazy ingredients that if I don't even know what they are, I really don't want to put them in my body. I'm a huge fan of eating real whole foods that don't even require an ingredients list. But if you do decide to shop the interior of the grocery store, which is where you find the things in packages and boxes and packets and cans, the only thing I want you to pay attention to on the nutrition label is the sugar. I really want you to take a look at the grams of sugar. And that's because you will see a daily value percentage associated with every other nutrient on a product except for sugar. You're not going to see a daily value percentage. It's going to be blank. Why? Once again, that's the heavy hand of the sugar industry at work. It keeps it from us, so it keeps us guessing, and it makes us have to do math. But here is the equation. So get out your pens and your notepads. 4 grams of sugar equals 1 teaspoon of sugar. So in the case of this can of ginger ale, I know that my mother, when I would have a sore tummy, she would give me ginger ale. She would sometimes stir up the bubbles to make it flat, and then I would drink it when I had a sore tummy. And that was something that she would give me. And if we're giving this to our kids, just to know, 32 grams of sugar in this product. So when you see the number of grams, that's when you do your math. You divide that number, whatever number it is. In this case, it's 32. We're dividing that by 4 to get to the number of teaspoons in that product. In this 1 can of ginger ale, 32 divided by 4, math wizards out there, maybe not wizards. How many teaspoons is that? 8 teaspoons. 8 teaspoons of sugar. This much sugar is in this can of pop. That's what we're putting into our children's tummies, into their bodies. This is the stuff with which cells are made in their bodies and our bodies. We are what we eat. We are what we drink. We have to be careful. We have to be mindful. We have to pay attention about what it is that we are putting into our bodies. It's hugely important. So let's just kind of take a quick backtrack into what food even is. So food is classified in usually one of 3 categories, and there can be some interplay there, but one of 3 categories that are called macronutrients. So we've got these macronutrients that are food is either a protein, it's a fat, or it's a carbohydrate. And sugar is a carbohydrate. So proteins are anything that comes from an animal. So any kind of meat, fish, poultry, any type of eggs or dairy. And then, of course, we have vegetarian sources of protein like chickpeas, beans, legumes, nuts and seeds are fabulous. Hemp hearts are one of my favorite sources of complete protein. Big fan of hemp hearts. And I use them instead of a protein powder in my smoothie in the morning. So those are proteins. And then we have our fats. So that's our coconut oil, avocado oil, avocados. And of course, avocados are also, a carbohydrate source, but they are also a fat source. Same with walnuts. They're also a protein, but they've got some wonderful omega-3 fats associated with them. So our oils and our oily fish like salmon, and these are all of our wonderful, healthy fats. And then all the rest are the carbohydrates. So our fruits and our vegetables, our starches, our brown rice, our quinoa, our sweet potatoes, all of that. And then, of course, our cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, all of that. Those are carbohydrates, as are fruits. All of our fruits and vegetables are carbohydrates. And then, of course, anything that comes in a box or a package or a powder, these are all carbohydrates. And so anything that's sugary, anything that's chocolate, cookies, candies, brownies, pastries, all of that are carbohydrates. So now that you kind of have that little bit of an idea around what food is and what food isn't and what we need to look for, we really need to talk about what's going on with us. Why is it that we are struggling so hard when it comes to, we look on social media and we're jealous of the people that we see. We look in the mirror and we think we can never measure up. We pinch our rolls and we think this isn't good enough and I'm not good enough and what's wrong with me? And I just so badly want to just reach through the computer screen and just tell you there's nothing wrong with you. We've been duped along the way. We don't even really know what food is anymore. We've outsourced our food supply to the point where we don't even know what it is. 20,000 food-like products hit store shelves every year that say things on the front of the boxes like high fiber and low fat and low this and high this. And we believe it because we want to believe it. We want easy buttons and we don't realize there's no easy button, but there is a way to make it simpler. There really is a way to make it simpler. So I really want to encourage you, try to just take a deep breath and keep it simple. If it's made by Mother Earth, God, universe, source, all, whatever you want to call it, if this food was provided to you on the planet Earth, not in a manufacturing plant, I say go for it. I say eat it. So many people ask me, what do you think about this? I just did a talk last night. She said, okay, so now I'm worried. What about potatoes? And it was like, what about potatoes? You know, what's wrong with a potato now and again? Are we eating 200 potatoes every day? No. But are we eating French fries? And are we, eating them covered in cheese and bacon and sour cream and all of these other condiments that go on top of them? Then there's an issue. But a real, whole, natural potato once in a while, I mean, not every day. We got to vary our diets a little bit. But there's nothing wrong with that. And I think so many of us have gotten just so confused with what diet am I supposed to follow? What kind of eating style am I supposed to follow? And I just encouraged you to be mindful that everybody's different and everybody gets to decide what feels right for them. But sugar is a drug. We talked about the tolerance being raised. What about if you've ever tried to stop eating sugar? If you've tried this ever before, if you've tried my 28-day Kick the Sugar Challenge or the Whole30, or if you've done any of these programs, you will know it is not easy to quit sugar. If the hallmarks of addiction are tolerance and withdrawal, we see both with sugar. So I see sugar as a drug. It acts so similarly to a drug. It activates the same reward system in the brain, the nucleus accumbens. It lights up when we take in sugar. So when I quit my drinking of alcohol, no wonder my brain was like, hello? No. You're not going to do that. You need to feed me with something that makes me feel good. And that's what it wants. And that's what happens. And so many of us are on this up and down pattern all day long. We start the morning with something sugary. Boop. Up spikes our insulin. because that's what happens. Sugar comes into the body. The pancreas says, oh, that's my job. Now I got to do something. The pancreas releases the hormone insulin, which sort of opens the door to the cells in our body to allow the glucose to enter, the excess sugar. Once that cell is full, it can't take in anymore. And we have elevated levels of blood sugar. And this is how sort of insulin resistance starts, which is a precursor to type 2 diabetes. So we just have to kind of understand what's happening with our bodies when we take in sugar so that we can have some more compassion and maybe a little more reverence for these incredible beings, these sentient beings. These are animals that we live in. We are animals that we have to be taken care of. We have to care for them. I share this example now and again, and I think it's a good one. I think it really kind of outlines it a bit. Two families go and buy a new puppy for their home. The Stewarts and the Johnsons. And the Stewarts go home and they run that dog every day and they feed it its perfect diet, its kibble and whatever it's supposed to be eating. And they just take such good care of it, grooming it regularly, making sure he's taken care of, take him to his vet visits and daily walks and just a great life. That dog leads its whole life and grows up to really fulfill his potential as a dog. And the Johnsons take their little baby puppy home. And they're not really too into going out for walks and stuff. They're more sedentary. So they sit on the couch with their dog. They let it eat off their plate. The dog eats a lot of scraps and people food. And they never run that dog. They don't sort of take good care of him. And he's mad a little bit. Doesn't look very good. I said matted. I didn't say mad. And so that dog sort of gets to the end of his life. Maybe he develops tumors or diabetes or cancers and doesn't really get to fulfill his life as a dog, his potential as a real dog with that, leaping through the fields that you kind of think of as a happy dog running. He doesn't have that. He sort of waddles along for most of his life. He's unhealthy and he's unhappy. That's not how he wants to be. And I think a lot of us can relate, right? We can sometimes sit on the couch like I was, and I was just sitting with my ice cream. I wasn't really happy, but I didn't know what else to do. I didn't know how to get through those cravings. I didn't know how I was going to manage my life without alcohol. And now I have to give up sugar. Like, what the hell do you want from me? I was even smoking at the time, and I was certainly not wanting to give that up either. And all of these addictions, these outside substances I was using to fill an inside hole inside of me. And I had to come up with strategies. I knew that if I was going to keep up this guise of being this healthy person, that I'd better come up with some really good strategies to help me to deal with those sugar cravings. Because I didn't want to just be white knuckling my way through my life. I wanted to enjoy my life and I wanted to feel good. I wanted to feel whole and not feel like I was constantly not able to fulfill whatever it was inside of me that was calling out, that needed something. I wanted to be able to attend to myself. And so that's what I've done. I've put together an awesome program that I get to share with people called OBAT coaching. And I just love it because we go through together and we really get deep underneath the core issues of why we are behaving the way we're behaving. What has led us to this? Because I think for so many of us, we can just get to that place where it's like, who am I? Like, we really lose touch with who we really are and what we really want, and we can become really deflated and really defeated. And I don't want that for you. I want you to love your life, and I want you to feel amazing in your body. And it doesn't come from a diet. It never comes from a diet. $50 billion industry designed to fail. It doesn't come from buying product after product after product every month that isn't real food. It comes from learning how to nourish these sentient beings, these animals that we own, that we rent for a very short period of time. We get one body. From the time we take our first breath, we get to watch it grow and evolve until the day we take our last breath. It's the one body we're going to get. Whether or not you believe in reincarnation or not doesn't matter. This one body is the only one you're ever going to get. And what better gift in the world to give yourself than the gift of self-love and self-trust and self-respect. And I truly believe that if we can get our food right, so many other things in our lives can fall into place. I really believe that because so often we can separate our head from the rest of our body, right? We don't think that our mental health is part of our physical health. We separate it right about here. And that's crazy. Our health is completely interconnected. And it takes making decisions. People often say to me, is it just making decisions? Yes, it takes making decisions over and over and over again. I had a client once that said to me, what I really want from you, Sarah, is to eradicate any cravings I'll ever have. That will be to me that you are the tool and the resource that I need in my life. Like if you can teach me how to never have another craving, then that will be winning for me. That will be how I'll know that this is working. And I had to be honest and say, I am not the right coach for you. I have cravings regularly. People often say to me, oh, Sarah, I'm fine with everything, but I'm an emotional eater. We all are. We eat when we're happy. We eat to celebrate. We eat to commiserate when we just got broken up with. And, when things aren't going well, when we're grieving, we eat. We stuff ourselves because we don't know what else to do. We have such a hole inside and it feels like pain. And we want to do whatever we can to fill that pain. That's why I see addiction as all the same. I don't point at the addict. I don't look at them with criticism and judgment. I see them as I see myself. How many of us can say, maybe it's not alcohol and maybe it's not even sugar. I'm not sure why you're here if it's not, but maybe it's not even for you. But what about your cell phone? What about work? What about shopping? What about sex or porn or other ways that we escape, that we numb out, that we soften the edges a little bit? Because there's stuff that we don't want to face in our lives. There's stuff maybe in our past that we have just tried to slam the door shut on, but we've never really healed it. And that was really my story. I had forgiven people in my life for the things that they had done. And on a cerebral level, I was good. It was like I knew that they'd done the best they could. They didn't mean to hurt me, that these were things that just kind of happened in my life. And I really felt like I could move on. But underneath it, it was still there. I hadn't healed that pain. Those wounds were still gaping wide open because I was still using sugar to soothe them. And that's the kind of work that we do together in my OBAT group coaching program. We get underneath. It's huge, super, super powerful. So I've talked about the 56 hidden names for sugar. I want you to go and check out that link just so you've got a really good understanding of, wow, I had no idea there were that many names for sugar, so that you can start to really begin to raise your awareness about what you're putting into your body. And maybe from there, make some new decisions, because it really is all about making new decisions. I want you to set yourself up for success, right? Like if you look in your environment, people often talk about this, that weight or health is not a genetic issue. We often want to look at our genetics and say, well, my mother was overweight, my father was overweight, like I'm just destined to be. Not necessarily. We often look at genetics and want to point the finger at it instead of saying, let me look at my habits. Let me look at my rituals. Let me look at my environment. And that includes the people that you hang around. Is everyone that you hang around with all super focused on eating a ton of junk food and they're always kind of pushing you to eat more junk food? And you're like, it's kind of nice being with those people. I get it. When I was a drinker, I always wanted to be with the drinkers who drank more than me. I was always then able to point to them and just be like, okay, well, I'm not as bad as that. So that can sometimes be really, not self-deprecating, but it can be really, whatever the words I'm trying to say, when you can like sabotage yourself by being with the wrong crowd. So definitely look at your environment, including your own home. What's in your own pantry and freezer? Take a look. Open them up. Start looking at labels. Read the ingredients labels first. See how much sugar is in there. See what kinds of sugar are in the ingredients label and how close they are to the very front of the list. And then turn it around a little bit. Look at the nutrition, check for the sugar, do your calculation, divide whatever number that is by 4, and then just see, is this what I really want to be putting into my body? These are decisions that we need to make. We don't eradicate all cravings, but when we can get into a lifestyle and into habits that lead us to feeling our best, it's amazing how much easier this type of lifestyle becomes. I just got a message before coming on this webinar from a student of mine, a past student of mine, and they were sharing with me all of the things that they now do habitually. Things like starting their morning with warm lemon water, eating protein first thing in the morning to keep them satiated. We're going to get to some of those tips in a moment. Really doing a lot of these tips, and they were just saying, it's just incredible. This is now my new normal. And that's what it's like. That's how it feels. We can sometimes start something, and even though I always suggest slow and steady, it's still making changes. But over time, it just gets easier and easier and easier. And because the behavior is reinforced because of how good you're going to feel when you make some of these changes, it just makes it so much easier and so much more enjoyable. Never, ever think about going on another diet again. Instead, whenever you think about going on a diet, I want you to think about eating. I love food. I am a huge fan of eating food. Sarah talks food, right? I am all about food. This is never about starving yourself. So that's my number one tip to you. Break out your notepad and your pen right now. My number one tip. I have lots of number one tips, but I'm choosing that one for tonight. Eat. I want you to eat. I don't want you to fear food any longer. You would never fill your car with tomato juice, expect it to go, and then when it doesn't go, kick it, yell at it, smash its windows. That would be insane. You would be thought of as an insane person. But we do that with our bodies. We fill them full of junk that doesn't help them to move, that doesn't help them to thrive. And then we pinch them, we criticize them, we practically kick them, and we just sort of look at them with disgust and say, how dare you look so awful? We're always comparing ourselves to other people, and we're looking at the aesthetic of our body instead of ever really considering everything these incredible bodies do to keep us alive every moment of our lives. I want you to develop the kind of reverence for these beautiful structures, these beautiful beings that we all get to have, regardless of what it looks like right now. Table that for a minute and just have some compassion. Maybe close your eyes right now. Put your arms down, put your hands on your thighs, and take a deep breath in. Fill your lungs with fresh oxygen. Hold it at the top. Take a little bit more. And then exhale with a sigh. And feel free to do that as many times as you like to as we're finishing here. And just stay mindful that your breath is something you can always connect to. It is a gift that you can give yourself to breathe. So breathe. Breathe into these beautiful bodies. Give them extra oxygen by maybe going for a little walk, maybe after this. Go outside and get some fresh air. It's a beautiful evening in Ottawa, Gatineau tonight. So I'll leave that with you to maybe go and do that. But just take a moment to have some gratitude for your body. It is awesome. And it works so hard all the time. All it's asking for are a few things. It needs food. It needs real food. It doesn't need products and packages and powders and pills. It needs real, whole food with nutrients. With nutrients your body knows what to do with. It needs you. It needs your love and your respect. And it needs you, your brain, to make decisions in lots of those moments where I know you would rather maybe have the chips and the chocolate and the candy and the ice cream. I get it. But think about what your body really needs. Think about what you can do to really nourish it in each and every moment. And then, of course, we live in the real world. Don't say that you'll never have cookies or chocolate or ice cream. I don't want you to ever say that. I don't want you to ever think that. But what's another strategy? Another one for me? Instead of buying the junk food, I'll make a healthier version of something. So a healthier version of ice cream would be frozen bananas and some almond milk with a little peanut butter and cocoa powder. Blend that up with some ice cubes. It's like ice cream. It's on my blog. Type in nice cream and you'll find it. You can do that instead, or you can bake a healthier banana bread. My favorite cookbook author is The Detoxinista. And if you want to go and follow her, please do. She has tons of recipes. Every single one of them works out beautifully, all using real whole ingredients. Of course, I've written a book too, the 28-Day Kick the Sugar Challenge, if you're interested in picking that up. And I have over 90 recipes that are tested even by kids. They're easy, they're tasty, they're healthy, they're delicious, and your body knows what to do with them. So number one tip, eat. A sub tip of that, eat the healthier treats. I mean, you're eating anyway. You might as well get some nutrition in there. My next big tip, eat protein. It's huge. You can quell so many sugar cravings just by prioritizing protein. Many of us don't really understand protein or know when we're supposed to eat it or how much, and everyone's different. But what I just encourage you to do is every time you eat, say to yourself, is there protein here? Have I got some protein? So for me, my morning breakfast smoothie has 5 tablespoons of hemp hearts and some nuts and seeds and a few other things. But that's my main source of protein. I add in vegetables, I use water as the liquid, and some berries. And I blend that up, and that's my breakfast. I'm getting tons of fiber with the vegetables in there. I'm getting the protein that I need to keep me satiated. And what happens when we start our day with protein, we are then able to quell sugar cravings later on in the day. They just don't come on as strongly at 9 o'clock at night if we've started our day with protein. So protein in the morning, and then every meal and snack after that. And I encourage you, eat when you're hungry, eat breakfast and lunch and dinner. And I'm not going to get into anything regarding the ketogenic diet or intermittent fasting or any of that, because that's all individual. Everyone gets to try their own strategies. But if you're talking to me, I'm just encouraging you to eat real food. I love eating breakfast. For me, I don't want to miss that meal. It's important to me. Other people, they feel better waiting a little longer. That's fine. But protein. Be prioritizing it. And it's not a 12-ounce porterhouse steak, people. It's 4 or 5 tablespoons of hemp hearts. It's a handful of almonds with an apple for a snack. It's a smearing of almond butter on my banana as a snack. It's some vegetables with hummus. Right? We don't have to go crazy. It's not all meat-based either. I am an omnivore. I do eat meat, but for the vegetarians and vegans out there, we can absolutely do it too. There are lots of protein sources for all of us to enjoy, and it really helps with sugar cravings. Sleep. When we don't prioritize our 8 hours of sleep, we really tend to wake up craving sugar. Why? Because our brains are saying, I need more sleep. Please let me have some more sleep. And we're saying, too bad. You're not going to get any more sleep right now. We've got to get up, get in the shower, get to work, get to the office, do our work day. And then we've got to pick up the kids, and then we've got to go grocery shopping. Then we have that event later on. And we don't get the sleep that we need. So our bodies say, okay, if that's what you're going to do, you're going to make me do all these things instead of go back to bed. I'm going to make you do something for me. I need to stay awake. So I'm going to start craving the fastest source of energy, which is sugar. So that's why so often when we're tired, we just sort of sit there going, oh my gosh, I can't stop eating the bagels, the pretzels, the brownies, the cookies, the donuts, the coffee with cream and sugar, like 4 of them for the caffeine and for the sugar. So definitely prioritize your sleep. I also want you to prioritize your hydration. Speaking of which, water. Water. The same area of the brain that's responsible for talking to us about how hungry we are is the same area of the brain that says, I'm thirsty. So often the wires can get a little crossed, and we can think that we're starving when we're really just dying of thirst. Our bodies are just like, no, I didn't mean to tell you that I'm hungry. I need to drink some water. So a really good strategy, if you've just eaten not long ago and you're feeling hungry still and you're sort of with the fridge open staring and wondering what you can eat, try drinking a big glass of water. maybe go for a little walk or get some fresh air, do some deep breathing. And in 10 minutes, just see how you feel. That craving will pass. And that's another thing. Cravings pass. Just like for any of you who have ever quit smoking, I did, and quit drinking, I did. There were cravings. They are there and they go away. And what do we need to do? Make a decision in that moment that we're not going to succumb to that craving. If every time I had a damn craving when I quit smoking, I kept having another cigarette, I'd never be an ex-smoker 15 years later, almost 16 years, right? I would never be that ex-smoker. I'd never be the ex-drinker. But I am, because I kept making decisions in each moment that I wanted to make, those decisions that led me closer to where I knew I didn't want to go. But instead, I'd made decisions that led me closer to where I knew I did want to go. And over time, like a muscle, we build that resilience. We build that strength. Those habits start to get stronger and stronger so that they become our easy buttons. I promise you, waking up in the morning and me drinking a warm mug of lemon water with a pinch of Himalayan salt, that just helps it so that we don't pee it out so quickly. A little pinch of salt helps. Having my morning smoothie, packing my lunch if I'm going out anywhere, leaving the house with a bottle of water and a baggie of nuts and maybe a piece of fruit. These are all just easy buttons for me now. It's not so hard for me to think to do all of these things. And it won't be for you either once you start building these habits. But the trick is slow and steady. We don't create entire new lives in 3 weeks to a bikini body, and 2 weeks and you're going to lose 10 pounds. It's water weight, and it's just going to come back as soon as you start eating regular food again, because that's what we all do. We're like rebellious teenagers. We can sort of white knuckle it for this long. And then finally we just say, I can't do it anymore. And the pendulum shifts and it swings all the way the other way. And we end up gaining all the weight back that we just lost, plus more. And the diet industry is a $50 billion industry because they know it is designed to fail. No more diets. I never, ever, ever, ever want you to be on another diet. I just want you to make the choice that your diet is a healthy food diet, is a real food diet, is a diet that your body, this amazing, incredible vehicle, this incredible structure can utilize. It can say, okay, I can handle this. This is what I need to thrive. This is awesome. And then when you do decide to have the cupcake or the slice of birthday cake or the ice cream at the ice cream shop in the summer or the slice of pizza or 3, your body can go, okay, I can handle that. It's okay. 80-90% of the time, I'm eating really well. You're feeding me really good stuff. I'm totally feeling great. And once in a while, I can handle some junk food, because I'm not ever going to pretend that it's realistic that we're not ever going to have some junk food in our lives. We do. It's going to happen. I eat it, right? Like Roger and I just had pizza last week, and it's a treat. And it's amazing how delicious it tastes when it's a treat. And yet, I knew I would not be feeling great afterwards. I never do. Gluten and I don't get along too well. And, cheese and all that other stuff that's on pizza. But I went for it, and I had my 2 big fat slices, and it was delicious and tasty, and we didn't have much to do the next day. It was a weekend, and that's how it went. So I'm just encouraging you to know that it doesn't have to feel like sacrifice and deprivation and starvation, that you can make these decisions and start to really begin to raise your awareness to get to a place where really it feels like freedom and it feels like joy in your life. Think about this when you're going through your day. There's something by Mel Robbins. She calls the 5-second rule. It's also been researched. It's called the motivation wave. So whenever you're kind of becoming motivated, okay, when you just heard like drinking water, okay, maybe I could start drinking water more often, or I might think about drinking warm lemon water in the morning. Okay. Or I might start eating protein in the morning. Okay. You've got 5 seconds to use that motivation wave to get you to doing something. So whatever it is, just to know, you sort of make that decision and you think to yourself, okay, let's use this example. You've decided that you are going to go to the gym. You're going to start going to the gym. You bought a membership, and tomorrow morning's your first time. Your alarm goes off the next morning. And in that moment, it's your first day going to the gym. You haven't been for a very long time. And in that moment, where you hear that alarm go off and you say, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be going to the gym. You have 5 seconds. 5, 4, okay, I'm up, slam that snooze button. I'm gonna turn off my alarm. I'm gonna 3, get my shoes, get my stuff. I'm gonna start brushing my teeth. I'm gonna get myself out the door. 2, 1. You have 5 seconds to start really getting some momentum going that, okay, I've made this decision. Otherwise, we all know how that feels when we hear that alarm go off early in the morning and we really don't want to leave our cozy bed. And all of a sudden it's, oh, beep, beep, beep. I'm supposed to be going to the gym. Oh, I don't really feel like going. 4, I really feel comfortable here. 3, hit snooze. 2, 1, and we're back to sleep. So that's the motivation wave. And I want you to really harness it. I want it whenever if something tonight is resonating with you, I want you to harness that motivation wave. So whatever it is, after we get off this call tonight, if there's something that I've said that you said, okay, I really kind of want to do that, write it down. Decide you're going to do it. If you want to start with morning lemon water beside your coffee maker, put a sticky note right now. Write it down. Write down what you're going to do. And put a sticky note maybe beside your coffee maker. Drink water first. Or, put your running shoes out, write this down. So right now, in this moment, in your notebook, write down one thing that you're going to start doing tomorrow that's going to help you lead a healthier lifestyle, because it doesn't start with the big, big picture. It starts with these incremental small steps that lead us closer and closer and closer. People think there's a magic bullet. People think there's some magical thing. People sometimes look at me and say, oh yeah, but Sarah, you love working out. And I'm like, not every day. Like, not every time I do it do I love it, right? There are days that I'm like, I don't have time for this and I don't feel like doing this. And then I just use my 5 seconds and say, I don't care, you're doing it. And I put on my shoes and I roll out my yoga mat and I do my workout. And that's the way it has to be. We have to just take those small incremental steps to lead us to where we really want to go. And it really is all about making those small decisions. They're not going to go away. Those cravings aren't automatically going to just be eradicated. They are going to be there. And it's just a way of finessing our way around our life so that they don't overtake us and keep pulling us down into a life that we're not loving. We get one life, one shot at this. We want to love our lives. So eating breakfast, eating protein, drinking water, sleeping, preparing your food. So of course, I'm interested in you preparing your food and making sure that you have meals prepared so that you're not left to wonder what you're going to eat. That's a huge tip and strategy that has helped me. And never leaving the house without water and some type of a snack in my bag, because sometimes you don't know if you're going to be caught somewhere and all of a sudden it's like, McDonald's on that corner, Starbucks over here, Harvey's over here, Burger King over there, and you can get really tempted in those moments. And I want you to be mindful that our bodies are going to want to crave the fastest source of calories for the least caloric expenditure. That's how these old reptilian brains work, these ancient brains. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to find the greatest source of calories for the least caloric expenditure. And we need to just try to hack that a little bit and say, I know that there's a Starbucks on every corner and it's not hard for you to find food anymore like it used to be when we were nomads, but I'm going to help you out. I'm going to just keep, pushing, abating those cravings by doing these things that are tools and strategies in each moment that they come up so that I can begin to curate and create this life that I really love to be living. I want to ask you a question. I want to ask you, if you were to think about the 5 people that you are in relationships with, people that you care about, people that you love, think about those 5 people. And I'm assuming many of you, sort of shouted out or thought in your head, your spouse, maybe your parents, maybe your children. I'm wondering how many of you included yourself in that list. If you didn't, just be mindful that the relationship that you have with yourself is the most important relationship of your entire life. And it's the one that you truly do have to cultivate. It's the only one that really matters. It's you in all of these other relationships. I want you to become and be the person that you truly are meant to be. And if your body weight and your body image is holding you back, if diets feel like it's just like the way you think it has to be, if that's how it's always been for you, I want to help you to get away from all of that. I would love to work with you. My OBAT group coaching program starts again on May 20th. It's 12 weeks of awesomeness where I get to support you every single step of the way through to the end, where you are going to honestly look at your life completely differently. I would love that honor and privilege to work with you. Of course, you can find out more. I think there's going to be a link posted below here. I want you to check it out if that resonates with you. If you want some accountability, if you sort of like being helped along, but yet you aren't looking for something prescriptive, because if you're looking for strict meal plans and I'm going to be telling you to weigh your food and I'm going to be telling you what you can and cannot eat, that is not this program. It goes deep. And it goes deep because that is what is important. That is really what matters. We need to get to the root of why we are behaving the way we're behaving. Why do we choose the foods that we're choosing? What is it about these foods and these behaviors that are keeping us stuck in this spiral? We need to get underneath. It's what was really impactful for me. It's what completely changed everything for me and truly allowed me to live in this lifestyle where it never feels like sacrifice or deprivation or starvation. Believe me, again, I love food. I really want to help impart this to you, and I want to be on this journey with you if you feel called. So I encourage you to check it out, to learn a little bit more, and to know that I am here every step of the way. I'm not sure if there are any questions. I don't even necessarily know I know how to do this. I will see if there are any questions here. So Roger says, so exciting. If anyone's having trouble viewing, just refresh the page. Okay, thanks, Roger. I think so many of us reach for sugar for comfort. Agreed. I agree. J.N. Barnes, hi, 99. I understand to look for sugar, but what about the sodium? Yeah, I mean, sodium's a factor too, and we have to pay attention to sodium, but I'm not that worried about sodium because I'm really concerned about what's going on with sugar. Of course, if we're eating a ton of packaged foods and processed foods, there is a ton of sodium in those foods. You aren't going to find those levels of sodium in real whole foods. And for the most part, that is my diet. My diet is I'm eating the smoothie that I described for my breakfast. I'm eating an apple and a handful of almonds. I eat the raw, unsalted ones as my snack, but a few salted nuts isn't going to, hurt anything. I mean, raw nuts are better. Let's just put it that way. Raw nuts are better, but if you're not going to eat any nuts and you'd like to have a few of the roasted, go for it, roasted and salted. And so I just think that if you're staying away from processed foods and really, really prioritizing real whole foods, let's not get too hung up on sodium. Yeah, sure. If you want to look at a can of tomato soup and you want to see that sodium in there and be appalled like I am, that's why I put that can of soup down and I make my own soup. I use a jar of those strained tomatoes. I have this recipe on my blog. If you type in better than Campbell's soup, I think that's what I called it. And I just take those strained tomatoes in the same glass jar of tomatoes. I pour in plain unsweetened almond milk. I shake that up. I pour that into the pot, a pinch of Himalayan salt, a tiny drizzle of maple syrup, and that replaces all the sugar and the sodium that is in the can of Campbell's or whatever brand. I stir that up and I have 8 servings or 10 servings of soup and very low sodium, very low sugar, and tastes to me better than Campbell's. So I am just a huge fan of eating real whole foods. And when we do that, we can sort of be, we can be a little less strict in our minds even about, oh my gosh, well, what am I eating? Like, so there's a fair amount of sodium in celery. Do you think that I care? Nope, I don't. Do I care about the amount of sodium in a package of McDonald's French fries? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Or in canned or packaged products, which is why I tend to avoid them. So as long as you are, for the most part, really focusing on the real whole foods, you're going to be so far ahead of the game. So let's just not put too much pressure on anything other than the real whole foods. And thank you very much, Roger, for putting that link up. That's great. I didn't my first time. I don't know what that means, Roger, but I'm sure you have figured that out because you know me. Roger's my partner. Oh, you're welcome, JN Barnes 99. I don't know what your name is, but I really like your handle. That's awesome. So that's it. I think I just want to make sure if there were any comments on the Facebook down below, it doesn't look like it. So I have really enjoyed being with you tonight on my very first live webinar. Thank you so much to everyone who's here with me. And if you are interested in joining me on this journey on May 20th, I would love nothing more to support you. It has become my life's work. I really take the elements that really resonated with me from the therapy work that I've done with different therapists and psychologists and counselors to the different approaches that I've taken, some of the different tools and strategies, things like life mapping, really going back and looking at where things started to go off course for us when it comes to food, and then looking at other tools and tips that can really help us to just kind of shift our awareness into a place where all of a sudden we just start looking at sugar and looking at the world around us and looking at our own behaviors. And we can really take that step back and say, okay, oh my gosh, now I have eyes wide open. Now I'm not just sort of being pulled around life, like dragged around like a balloon in the wind. It's like, no, I'm centered, I'm grounded, I know who I am and what I value, and I am going to use food as a tool in my life to live my best life. And that's truly what I want for each and every one of you. So thank you. Link, please, for the May session. Oh, okay. Thank you. Roger, can you please post the link for the coaching program, please? That's great. JN Barnes 99. That's amazing. Thank you. And Roger, you were saying name myself as one of the five. Right. Roger, you didn't name yourself as one of the five when you said that. I know you and I both learned that exercise from our mutual friend, Kylie Delfino, and I shared about it on my talk show. She's fantastic. And the first time that she suggested that question to me as well, I didn't think of me either. And so it really shifted my awareness. So I'm really glad that that resonated, Roger. And I'm so glad to whoever's watching and whoever's on the replay. Thank you for being here. I've kept you longer than an hour, so I'll let you get back to whatever you were doing. And JN Barnes 99, we will definitely send you the link, or it'll be posted here below for the May 20th session. And if not, if you don't see it, just email me at Sarah. So email me at sarah@sarahtalksfood.com, and I will definitely get the link to you there, and we can even have a conversation if you like. So thank you again, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your evening. I love you all dearly. Bye for now.